Hello, friends. We live in an age of anxiety. This is by no means a new reality. We have been living in an age of anxiety for many years, perhaps many decades. But COVID-19 has brought this culture of anxiety a little more to the forefront. We live in a state of what Edwin Friedman called many years ago a state of chronic anxiety. It's systemic anxiety. It's an anxiety that is not only found within the individual or within the family, but throughout society itself. And it's a feeling that goes far beyond just nervousness. Our society is one that walks on eggshells for a whole lot of reasons. It's like we're constantly in a room that is filling up with gas fumes, and we're just waiting to see which dummy lights the match. I heard it put that way one time, and it seems pretty accurate. In this age of anxiety, that leads to fear, we far too often take a posture of keeping our head down. We keep our head down because, honestly, we're afraid to look up sometimes. We're afraid that if we look up, what we will see will be far too much for us to bear. But we also keep our heads down because we have discovered a surefire way to limit the anxiety. We distract ourselves with our screens. In this age of anxiety, that chronic systemic anxiety that we've been living in, most of our lives, we have discovered that we can deal with that anxiety by keeping our head down looking at a screen. Now, before I go any further, I understand the irony of me preparing to tell all of us to look away from our screens as you are watching me on a screen. I get the irony of it. I understand it, but it is what it is. We live in an age of anxiety. We spend a great deal of our spare time looking at screens, either on phones or televisions or tablets or laptops, and we do so in an attempt to distract ourselves from the anxious world around us and within us. But what actually happens, the screens actually cause more anxiety. Seriously, y'all. Listen to the preacher on the screen. The screens that we turn to distract us from our anxiety actually cause more anxiety. It's time for us to walk away from the screens, to spend less time looking down at them or sitting in front of them. We are not distracting ourselves from our anxiety. We are perpetuating our anxieties, and we are distracting ourselves from all of the real life that happens around us all the time. At the beginning of the pandemic, I suggested that we all spend more time outdoors, that we spend more time outside noticing the good and beautiful things that surround us. I suggested that we would grow closer to one another and closer to God if we would just slow down and reset. But what most of us have done in place of those actions is spend even more time on our phones and in front of our other screens, and the anxiety continues to build The hate for others continues to increase, and we continue to drift further and further away from God. For me personally, I'm getting serious about a break from Facebook starting immediately. I will upload church content so that our folks who are unable to attend our outdoor gatherings can stay connected. But other than that, I'm done for a while. I'm just done. I'm doing this as a spiritual discipline for myself. Discipline is important. But I'm also doing it probably to help my blood pressure. And what I'm going to do, in place of the time that I would normally spend on Facebook, I'm going to sit outside. I'm going to read. I'm going to pray. I'm going to have conversations with my family. I'm going to look at the birds of the air. And I'm going to consider the lilies of the field. I'm going to follow Wendell Berry's instructions to himself, his reminder to himself in his poem, How to Be a Poet. In one of the stanzas of that poem, Berry says, "Breathe with unconditional breath the unconditioned air. Shun electric wire. Communicate slowly. Live a three-dimensioned life. Stay away from screens. Stay away from anything that obscures the place it is in. There are no unsacred places. There are only sacred places and desecrated places. A three-dimensioned life. A three-dimensioned life. That sounds about right.